Hello, thanks for joining me, astrologer Patrick Arundell, for your astrological overview for week commencing the 13th of January. At the very end of last week, Mercury, the planet of communication, moved into the sign of Aquarius. Now, in the first 10 degrees of Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and ironically, in the second half of this week, Mercury is forging a fine link with Uranus, which is located in Aries at the current time. Now, Uranus in Aries has been quite a dramatic influence over the last near to 3 years. It shook the world to its roots, particularly in the Middle East. And it's a kind of like go for it now, talk about it later type of influence. But in this combination with Mercury and Aquarius, it can be so foresighted, original and groundbreaking in its thinking. So if you are somebody who's wanting to break out of the rut and do something different, then this planetary combination will certainly help you this week. But there still is a predominance of influence is in the sign of Capricorn, which of course is ruled by Saturn and is much more cautious. And one of these is Venus, and it continues to track backwards in a retrograde, which in fact is going to go on until the 30th of this month. But Venus is also in a right angle with Mars for the whole of this week. Now, of course, these are the planets of love and affection, but in different kind of ways, because Mars is the kind of masculine side of it, which sort of hunts down the opportunity, and Venus is the more seductive side of the energy. So what's the outcome when they're in this right angle? Well, in fact, Libra, in its detriment, Mars in its detriment in Libra, is kind of saying to us that we need to balance our actions before we go for it. So it can actually be quite a good thing. And in this square, it's just asking us to be conscious of how we appear to people. If we're a bit brusque and try to force the pace of our personal presentation, how we come across to people, it can actually be quite negative. Conversely, it's not a good time to actually lay on the charm too thickly, so we seem rather insincere. So that's something to bear in mind for the whole of this week. Now, Mars is also squaring up with Jupiter in the first half of this week, suggesting that if we are a bit too overconfident or a bit presumptuous in the way we try to push things forward, again, that can blow back in our faces. On Thursday, there is a full moon in Cancer. And this full moon is, obviously, the moon is the ruler of Cancer, so it's a particularly sensitive one, and it's asking us all to be conscious of some of the goals and ambitions that we've set ourselves for this new year. Are they in any way interfering with the more emotional side of life, which is often nothing to do with materialism? It's much more to do with how we relate and sense things. So I think it's time for us all to just be more attuned to the atmosphere that we find ourselves in and the conversations we have with others, and just soak up a bit more knowledge from those and not be quite so intellectual in our approach. Ironically, the last day of this week sees Venus and Jupiter in opposition. This is something that happened before Christmas, and it's actually a really nice one, and it can see us enjoying something, but to the max. And because Jupiter loves being in Cancer, it could be quite a spiritual exchange, or it may just be a very affectionate one, or we may do something to be protective towards the people we really care about. But one day after the end of this week, the Sun is going to be arriving in Aquarius to join up with Mercury, but I'll tell you more about that next time. Thank you for joining me. Have a great week, and goodbye for now.